Tzedek tzedek tirdof is the Jewish phrase of 2020. You heard it here first. Probably not first, but I'm reiterating it, okay? Welcome back to And God Was Like. I'm your host, Ariel Kaplan, and this week I am breaking down Shoftim. Just a quick refresher, Moses, who is going to die at the end of his very long-winded speech, is giving all of the laws of the Torah to the Israelites because they don't really know shit. Let's jump in. Chapter 16. Moses talks judicial, kind of boring shit, but it's not so boring. It's actually super relevant. I want to talk about this one line, Tzedek tzedek tirdof. It means justice, justice you shall pursue. Is it redundant to say justice, justice you shall pursue? Is it like justice, justice you shall pursue? The second justice is used to show we must compromise, okay? If we can't settle shit in court, at least we can find something that works for everybody. My boy Seforno explains that justice is at the core of the Jewish identity. If we are not just, we lose the land of Israel. Honestly seems pretty fair to me. You cannot claim to be passionate and love God if you are not compassionate about justice. Justice is the primary contribution to the Jewish soul. It's not prayer or rituals, which yes, are important, but they kind of remain frosting to the Jewish identity. How we treat the weakest people in our society, which according to the Torah are orphans and widows, are irreplaceable to the core of our identity. Moses then tells the Israelites that when they enter the land of Israel, they cannot set up any sacred poles. In Hebrew, the sacred pole is described as an Asherah. Asherah is the queen of heaven, the Jewish female deity who used to be married to God. The editors of the Torah really tried to eradicate her from the text, but archaeological evidence is writing her back into history, as am I. Thousands of these little Asherah figurines have been found in Israelite rural communities, so we know that the Israelites were in fact worshiping Asherah, the queen of heaven, during biblical times, probably up until the destruction of the Second Temple. Chapter 17. Moses tells the Israelites that when they get to the land of Israel, if they want a king, no one's stopping you. God just has to approve of the appointed king, which he will do through the high priest, the Kohen. On his designer garment has these two stones called Urim Betumim, and they will glow with some sort of color to indicate whether God approves or disapproves of the chosen man. Here are the restrictions on choosing a king. Can't be a foreigner, he can't have any horses or do horse trading in Egypt. He can't have like a lot of wives. The maximum amount of wives a king can have is 18. Chai, baby. He also can't let his heart go astray, and he can't have excess gold. He can only have enough gold to pay his army. Chapter 18. Okay, here Moses talks about the Levites and the Kohanim. Then Moses says that no magics are allowed. They are so abhorrent to God, and that is why he is disposing of them. No sorcerers, can't cast spells. You can't really do anything that's fun. We don't fuck with magic, we fuck with prophets. Guys, remember that time at Mount Horeb when God spoke to you in a fire and his voice was like so scary that you didn't want to hear it again, so then you asked if Moses, could just talk to God instead? Well, don't worry, God wasn't like pissed about it. His voice is scary, like I get it. But anyway, he likes this kind of situation we've got going, and he's just gonna choose another prophet to speak with, okay? Cool. Chapter 19. Warfare is the topic of this pasuk. Chapter 20. More warfare laws. Moses explains that before the troops go to war, the high priest will hype them up. Moses also gives some exceptions to soldiers who can return home and not actually enter the war. This also shows us how a man must go about marriage. First, he proposes to his lady. If she says yes, he buys a house, and then he has to establish an economic base like planting a vineyard. And then we get the lovely wedding ceremony. If a man has not yet established his home with his wife, he can go home and finish all that shit, because otherwise he's going to be thinking about his wife and harvesting the grapes from the vineyard, and he'll be distracted and he'll forget that God is fighting with them. Also, if a man has any doubts about the war, go big or go home. My boy Ibn Ezra says the destruction of a tree is like the destruction of a human life. Back to Asherah, what the absolute fuck? Asherah's sacred monuments were these tree poles. So why do we have to cut them down? Chapter 21, more warfare laws. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode of And God Was Like. Have an amazing week, Shavua Tov, and Shabbat Shalom.